All right, guys, I want to welcome everybody back for another session of our virtual off-season training. The topic we're going to cover tonight is just general game procedures and responsibilities for all the positions. One thing that we're going to definitely stress tonight is to please, anybody that's joining us, it looks like we have 83 people on right now and we barely got started, is to just please ask as many questions as you want. Bruce and myself are going to be monitoring the chat and some other people as well. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll address them. Leading our discussion today it's going to be several of us. It's going to be myself, it's going to be Jeff Wasserman, George Shoup, and Jeremy Epps, Brandon, Spencer, Jack's here, Jack Kuntz, Josiah Ford, Matt Loughran, and Howard Sharir, and I think Anthony Fleming are going to be on as well. That's most of everybody. A couple of guys couldn't make it tonight, but we're going to definitely make do with what we have because these guys can definitely add some good insight. So if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about or anything from previous sessions, just please ask away and we'll do our very best to get it in. Okay. And I'm going to turn it over to, who's going to start? Is Jeff going to start or is Shoup, are you going to start?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Shoup.
Okay, Shoup,
Okay.
Go ahead and I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
Right. So Bruce, if you'll put the PowerPoint up, I think what we basically are trying to do here is we're going to take a few minutes and talk about each of these topics and then turn it over to a Q&A for the population in case there's something that we're not clear about or something that you want to add to. And again, from a line of scrimmage standpoint, if Jack, Josiah, or Matt, if y'all have something at the end, make sure y'all click in and do so as well. But again, I think this virtual training has gone well. I appreciate being able to be a part of it, and I look forward to helping if in the future if there's anything that I can do for the DFOA. The first thing we're going to talk about is travel planning. I know that our crew chiefs at the high school level are our referees, and at the collegiate level, at every level. But I think it's also important for the referee to understand to delegate some of the things and the assignments that might be within his crew, and traveling's one of them. So I would recommend for every referee out there to appoint somebody on their crew that's going to be their travel agent, if you will. And every Monday or every Tuesday, they're going to send out to the crew what's going to take place and where everybody's going, where everybody's meeting, if we're going to ride together as a crew, if we're going to meet at the stadium as a crew, at what point in time we're going to be there. But you need to take upon yourself that you're going to take that, if you will, responsibility for the crew, and you're going to communicate it every week. My also recommendations would be such that on Fridays when you get into the locker rooms or Thursday night, whatever night it is, and y'all are about to, you're taking your coat off or whatever it might be, your shoes, and you're about to start your pregame, you should probably at that point in time talk about next week's game. Give yourself about 10 minutes just to talk about what you might have. It might be a special game. It might be that you're going to be traveling so that you can get everybody's needs accommodated and you're not waiting until Wednesday or Thursday of the week of the game. Now, I would also extend, as a high school guy, I'd extend that to your chain crew, just to, if the chain crew hasn't been told to reach out to you by, Tuesday or so of that night, that you find out who's going to be on the chain crew, and you might extend that travel to them. But I just think it's important overall that you consider, that delegation and allow somebody on the crew take over that responsibility.
All right, and talking about the pregame, I like to start at 90 minutes before kickoff. Your referee may want to vary that, but at least 90 minutes. And I recommend changing it up. Don't do the same thing every week. Just don't do case plays every week or such. I would change up, do something different every time. Make it interactive too. Involve all the crew members. Involve your chain crew too. I know Nat was a big proponent of that in our crew chief calls last year, and I totally agree with him. Get the chain crew involved. And also, I'd like everybody to think that all members of the crew are responsible for a good pregame. Make it productive. And if someone in the crew saw something interesting during the week, a film, case play, whatever, bring it in, tell your referee, and present it. Just don't let the referee do all the presenting.
once you finally got to the field, guys, I mean, I think this is a part that really kind of gets lost in just in officiating. Walking the field is very important to you as an official, to you guys, to everyone as a crew, just to make sure that as a deep official, one of the big things you want to look for is where is the game clock and where is the play clock, right? Sometimes some of these stadiums are getting fancy. They'll have them off to the side. You got to be aware of that. From a line of scrimmage guys, they want to make sure that they have adequate sideline. They want to make sure that when they're walking the field, is it going to be a tight sideline? Is it going to be, uh, one where they can actually work? And so that's going to, for them subconsciously, make sure that they know exactly how they want to officiate that and how they want to control that sideline. Um, Walking the field, you can find divots, you can find holes. A lot of people have turf now, so that definitely helps. But there are still some grass fields that are out there, and you just see it clear as day. Or a lot of fields now have the crowns where you can't even see your official's feet on the opposite side of the field, which can be interesting and make your officiating fun. But you want to make sure that you got your pylons and make sure they're placed in the right spots. Uh, as ironic as that sounds, 95% of the time, I don't care at what level. I've seen it even in the NFL initially during pregame and during the initial walk of the field, those pylons are not in the right spot. So you want to make sure they get them placed in the right spot. Um, Only other thing that you can be doing when you walk in the field is, just making sure that you have any type of exit tunnel, and this is extreme circumstances, but you want to make sure that you have the game administrator and in the event that something happens, how to get in and out, where do you go to dress, at halftime, where will you go, and so on and so forth. So those are things that you want to make sure that you have as part of walking the field. I don't think I have anything to add, guys, and probably go roll into the coaches meeting.
Yeah, as far as the umpire goes with the coaches meeting, for the most part, I stand there and look handsome. If with coaches meetings, you really want to keep them as quick as possible. The referee is going to usually lead the discussion. If the coach has a question for me, I would appease him and I would answer it. But the last thing that we as a crew want to do is to give more time to one coach opposed to the other. So if we have a 8-minute coaches meeting with one team, and then we have a 2-minute meeting with the other team, try to be consistent. And if the coach says anything derogatory towards a crew that he had in the previous week, steer clear of that. We don't want to throw anybody under the bus. We'll just tell them we're here to officiate the game that we have today, and go officiate it. But yeah, just make sure all the coaches' meetings are real concise. They're detailed, but they're very, very quick. Jeff?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is now that the wings are switching sides, I'd recommend introducing the entire crew to each coach. That includes the back judge, even if he's checking balls. Let him introduce himself to the coach, then go out there and do his responsibilities. Some referees just like to bring the umpire and the short wing on that side, but I think you should introduce the whole crew. There's a lot of important stuff discussed at that meeting, so referees and umpires, make sure you share everything that you heard at that meeting with your crew if any member wasn't there, because we all need to know about plays the coach was interested in, what he saw on the other team, all that stuff. It's important for everybody to know. For the coin toss, moving on to that, just a few comments about that. Yeah, obviously, if we don't know the results, judge, field judge, make sure you have a ball ready for the ensuing kickoff. Wings, don't let captains come out to the middle with any objects. Don't let them come out with flags or sledgehammers or bones or anything to pump up their team or intimidate the other team. That'll just cause problems later on. And referees, unless you're specifically asked to do it, I would not run a live mic during the toss. I like to turn it on and give the results of the toss to the crowd and everybody. But your PA announcer's got a lot to do before the game, and taking 5 minutes for a lot of dead mic time doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I think at the umpire position, the coin toss is probably like your first view as far as what the coaches will see, right? You want the coin toss to be as perfect as you can. So however your referee wants to do it, make sure you do it that way. Make sure your jersey and everything is crisp, nothing is untucked, you don't look sloppy, and make sure you communicate with the players. Be alert for anything because we've seen some crazy coin tosses, but just always be on high alert for anything out of the ordinary.
All right, we're moving on to communication with coaches in the line of scrimmage.
See.
Okay, so I guess let me just touch back while we're walking the field, and I don't know, Howard Shearer indicated, and it's a very good point, when you're walking the field, make sure we know that where the play clocks are, the 25, the 40-second play clock, so whoever has those responsibilities might want to follow up with the clock operators and say, hey, when I come out to the football field and walk the field, I want to see that the 25-second clock count down. I want to see the 40-second clock count down. Just always something to be prepared so that if we find there's a glitch, let's find it in pregame and not during the game once we get ready to kick off. One of the other things that we talked about, too, is that you never have the opportunity to make the first impression but the first time. So whether it be if your crew does or doesn't want to do the coin toss over the microphone, just keep in mind that, again, that's a communication opportunity that if you do an outstanding mechanic at the coin toss, then it's just going to set precedence with those coaches to know, hey, this crew's, they're on top of it. They know what's going on. But, we don't want something to happen out there that where it would make us look like fools. Prior to the game, my communication or my recommendation would be short and sweet with the coaches. You want to go to the coach, introduce yourself. You might want to ask your coach if he has anybody on the sideline other than him that helps him get the team back. A lot of times it's the strength coach, but a lot of times the coach will say, no, it's going to be me. So he'll help you and use him. Go to him and say, hey, coach, I need some help getting the sidelines back. And you'll find that once you do and you lean on him, he's told you he's the man, or he's told you the strength coach is the man. Then make sure you let him know that, hey, I need help. The same responsibility that we have is that, I tell the coach, hey, if there's a foul on your side, involves your player, I'll get you a number. I'll get you anything. I'll answer any questions that I can as long as it doesn't impact my time and when I need to officiate with you. We might also ask him if he's going to be the one to call timeouts. I usually say whoever's calling the timeout, once you call timeout, if I'm not looking at you, I might be looking at the clock to make sure that we get the clock stopped as you're calling timeout. But if we're at one end of the stadium and you need to come running to call a timeout, then come running. And that's where your deep official may be able to help you because they would see them coming out of the team area while we're focused down the line of scrimmage if a coach is going to be calling timeout. So when I introduce myself with a coach, we usually go with the side judge or the line judge and the field judge goes, and the back judge goes with one of them just so that we're talking on the same thing. But it's all about that communication. I promise you that your secretary learns and hears more from coaches that says, man, that crew communicates well versus that crew misses a call. We're all going to miss calls, so don't ever take for granted that opportunity to communicate with that coach and be professional as you do it. Let me just add
Shoot, this is Xavier. I wanted to add real quick when you said about the coaches and the timeouts. I work with Brandon a lot of games, and one of the good things that he always taught me is, hey, if you're down towards the sideline, don't worry about the coach. I can see the coach all day. Worry about the line of scrimmage and worry about the goal line. If the coach comes down, I'll get the timeout. Don't even look at him. So that's a great point because that helped me out a lot.
Right. And so when we communicate with the coaches in that format prior to the game, then they'll be on the same page expecting that. With that being said, I just want to make sure that any of the other line of scrimmage officials that's on the call, if y'all have something to add, when I stop, y'all pick up. So I'll stop there to see if y'all have anything to add with communication with coaches.
Yeah, George, one thing I'll say is when you're on the sideline, there's two of you over there now. I think it's important to be aware when your co-official on your sideline has a foul. So if I throw a foul on the line of scrimmage, a lot of times, and I go in to report it, those coaches are naturally going to start walking onto the field. trying to figure out what's going on. So I think it's important for those deep officials a lot of times to come down the field and help us with those coaches, help keep them in the coaching box, let them know, hey, we're going to get you a number. Here's the situation, in kind of coordination with your guys, so that we've got, we can go in and report our fouls, but at the same time, someone's, communicating with the coach, de-escalating the situation if it is, if it's an issue with him trying to come onto the field or something like that.
I got one other thing about coaches' communication. One important thing I learned a long time ago: answer questions, not comments. They're gonna say stuff. They're gonna vent. They just want somebody to talk to. Let them vent, but always answer their questions, and you'll avoid a lot of bad situations if you don't answer just crazy comments.
Guys, this is Brandon. I'm gonna kind of segue off of that, shoot, but I completely agree with a lot of the comments that you guys just said, especially with that communication. When we're talking about any of that communication with the coach, in my opinion, I think it's sideline specific. No different than you guys still have your communication cross field, like I would have communication cross field as well. And just to piggyback on the comments that you made, if I'm not aware, if I'm not in tune with my upfield official, it can look bad. But when I am, man, it makes life a whole lot easier for both my line judge and headline judge, and me deep, just because we are in tune. So whatever communication it may be, if my short flank has a foul, maybe coach just doesn't like it, right? I'm there for coach to talk to. That's the word I'll use, right? And just allow my co-official to go in and report it. He's going to come back. He's going to be able to talk to him. But I'm giving him a sounding board at that time. Maybe I can get some communication via the headset to kind of be able to roll into that. So I think that is very key, and especially in those time crunching situations like George and Xavier brought up. That's definitely something as a deep official that we will mirror. That we will make sure that we are able to look past past the short flank to the coach to be able to make sure we are able to get those timeouts. If it's a tight spot and you guys are crashing the line as you should be, and I'm able to kind of clean up anything on the backside of it. So definitely in those situations to kind of be aware. So I'll keep rolling, and then I'll let Jeremy kind of finish off with communication with the players. But communication with players from a deep from any official's perspective. We want to make sure we're not coaching them. That's probably the biggest thing. We can give words of encouragement. We can try to communicate them out of a foul, meaning, hey, 65, I saw that. If it's during the play, 65, that was close. But also, when they do a good job, if you have the opportunity, tell them that they did a good job. That allows them to know, one, A, you're watching them, and B, they know what they can and cannot do. Not necessarily you have to put a flag down to get their attention. If 65 had good feet on a sweep play coming at you, you got a dead ball, you let them know, hey, 65, good job on that. Hey, way to hold up. Good job not to hit him after the play. I saw you hold up and go by him. Great job. That communication goes a long way. It gives you precedence and it gives you awareness on the field that lets the players know that you are that you're watching them and that you actually see that action. And no different than when you need their assistance. 65 would I don't know why I'm picking up 65 today, but 65 would definitely be that player saying, hey man, I need you to get the center over here. That all the extra stuff you're doing at the end of the play is going to get him in trouble. And he immediately, hey man, I've been watching him and he's been doing a good job. That's what the players will say to one another. Hey, he see everything, man. He saw me almost with the hold. He saw me almost with the DPI. And so he sees everything. It's just that's a good rapport to have with them. Not that you need it, but that's just that communication. The communication also, I'm going to go in reverse order. I apologize. In pregame, not doing a lot of communicating with them, but I am communicating. I'm finding out some of the things you should already know. Is he right-handed? Is he left-handed? I like to find out who are my starting DBs, who are my starting receivers. Who are my starting tackles? That's important to see what their tendencies, to see what their characteristics and traits are in that little bit of time during pregame. You can find out a lot about them. Is 77 on that end? Is he 6'6", 315? But his feet are just bad. Hey, we might be in for a long day of holding. Might not be, but at the same time, if he has bad feet, chances are he's probably going to be holding. On the DB and receiver end just as much. Do I have a long, tall receiver in the high school game, and heck, even in the college game, any game? If you got that long, tall receiver, a lot of times he's going to be the go-to guy, right? He's going to be that guy where that fade ball, I know it's coming to him late, so I want to be looking at him during pregame. Is he lazy coming off the line? Is he explosive? Is he handsy? My DBs, same thing. Are they handsy? No different than your umpire and referee. They're looking at the quarterback. They're trying to see does he roll out of the pocket? Is he RPO type guy, or is he just a pure pocket passer? Is he left-handed or right-handed? So those are the type of things that we're looking at, and so the communication with them as a referee, you're saying, hey QB, hey 11, I'll be with you all day. If you got anything, let me know. I'll make sure to communicate it to the other officials. Your line of scrimmage guys, when they're there during pregame, talking to the receivers, hey, look at me. I'm going to be your spot all day long. Communicate with them back and forth. If you don't check with me, I'm going to assume that you're off the line. If you do check with me, I'm going to put you on, and we're going to keep moving. That's part of their pregame routine. So those are the type of things, the kind of communication you want to have, and definitely, if at any point in time there's anything additional that's there, if you set that precedent early, if you talk to those kids early, it'll go a long way in going to the third, fourth quarter. Jeremy, you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, just a few things, man. Brandon's a man of his word. If you watch him work at any level, his mouth is moving nonstop. I mean, he's trying to help kids, not coach them, but he really communicates a good deal. Something that I learned from him. But also, our short flanks, they can help us communicate, because some stuff that we can't see on the line. I know Jack's helped me a few times. Hey, half 75, move up, because he can't run out on the field, like that. So you can help with those situations like that. You want to be vocal and you want to be visible. So if we're visible and vocal, I mean, we will demand and command the center of the field. Those 11 players, those are the players that usually will give anybody any headache. But, I mean, if you have a visible presence throughout the game, you shouldn't have any issues with UNS or UNRs. Well, UNRs, ain't no telling, but, the extra stuff, you should be able to control that with your voice, and be preventive is probably one thing that we want to be, opposed to throwing a lot of flags.
Next slide there, Bruce.
I guess before we move on, did we have any Q&A? Are we going to take any Q&A on those topics, or what are we doing? We're just kind of doing that along the way.
We're just doing it along the way, Shoot.
Okay.
So Deep want to take that?
You can move on.
Yeah, I'm still here, man. Don't worry. So on free kick plays, the fun part about for us in free kicks, right? I mean, we really get to opportunity where we don't really care for free kicks like anybody, just because there's too many bodies moving, too much is going on. I really wish that everybody could adopt the XFL and call it a day. That's my personal opinion, but I just thought it was freaking amazing. The 10-yard buffer just made life a whole lot easier. But we kind of go into that, man, and we talk about, just the movement. The movement after the kick that we're looking for, honestly, it's probably the reverse of what you actually see there. We actually don't want to be moving. As your FS, you're probably on a free kick. I might go 5 to 7 yards. And that's pushing it. Once the ball has crossed my face, I'm going to go down about 5 to 7 yards, and I'm going to sit at a spot. Most importantly, because you've heard it from years and years and years. You don't want your head moving. You don't want your eyes moving. So the sooner I can get to a set position, the easier it makes for my position to be able to rule on mechanically and be in the right position. So now, as a back judge, you're going to be moving a little bit more there, obviously, because you and the umpire are going to have your banana in. But that still doesn't change your philosophies there. You still want to hear him get to that spot. And I will say this, unless I'm gonna go ahead and throw Jeremy out there because my boy can run a little bit. There's a couple of umpires. If you're a back judge and you let your umpire beat you to the spot, your umpire is fast. I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna leave it at that. And it's not necessarily a challenge or anything of that nature, but you definitely want to try to get to your spot as quickly as you can. You want to banana in, get down there and look at that action. There's so much that's going on that's going to be at the referee and the short flanks, going to be at their feet. It's so much that's going to be right there. You got one trying to they're gonna be trying to start the clock. We're looking for wedge blocks. We're looking for so much going on. So our movement should be subtle. It should be quick, but it honestly should not be a lot. It should allow us for the busted play or the long play for our reverse mechanic, or technically our correct mechanic, to where we will then end up having the goal line in the event that the free kick is returned. We're watching zones in that situation, so our movement is going to put us in the best position to be able to watch a zone. The old philosophy, and it's still by rule, and even in TASO mechanics, you still have particular keys. No one will argue that, but that key just gets your eye to the area that you are. Everything else is going to be it's going to be a zone. So I may be watching R1 and R2, but I'm really watching 5 players in that zone, because if no one's in foul, no one's in chase mode, then I want to be able to help with that. So that's really all that I have for movement, guys. Not a whole lot. It's really don't move a whole lot. 5 to 7 yards, even for the back judge. He's moving 5 to 7. Umpire, same thing. Or you banana in, not 5 to 7. You're gonna banana in about 12 to 15 yards. Get set, and typically you're gonna be on about the hashes. You're looking inside out, and you kind of go from there. So short flanks and referee, that you probably have the most at your feet, like almost at every play. So I think it's important that their movement there is, once that ball is possessed and a step or two has been taken in the direction that the ball carrier is trying to go, then the H&L would then start to trail the play there slowly. So referee, you sit back and you quarterback and you do what you do best. So those are kind of the movements that we're looking for from the officials there as a whole. But a lot of us is truly not moving because we got 22 bodies flying on a free kick, and that's just generally no fun.
Hey, this is George. I'm not for sure what all Brandon thought he was doing, but that sure was a hell of a lot of stuff. I think just my 9 yards downfield would have been good. I had never seen a guy just be that active. But let's get back here to the skills side of this deal instead of the foot race side, right? So, Josiah, if you, Matt, or Jack want to take kind of maybe the movement of what we anticipate, along with including Jeff as the referee, because of the goal line and when we're winding the clock, when to move, that type of deal, that'd be great.
So I'll start off here a little bit. So just reiterating something that Robert said during the referee umpire session, you don't tunnel vision on the ball carrier. So once the receiver has the ball and he's running, you got to keep your peripheral vision on him if you're the referee or the head linesman or line judge down by the goal line. But you need to be looking at the point of attack. You need to be looking for the holdings, the block in the backs, the block below the waist, blindside blocks. You're not going to see that if all you're doing is watching the ball carrier. So if he fumbles the ball or something major happens, you're going to see that with your peripheral vision. So focus on your zone and your area of responsibility.
Yeah.
As far as line scrimmage guy, you won't don't take off too early. You want to trail the play. You want the play to get in front of you. Otherwise, you can be straight line. You're going to miss a lot of the action. So you're going to work from the outside in to see the action. So you got to make sure you take care of your field, or you're cleaning up the backside either way. So you may, as a crossfield guy, the ball's running away from you, may have to be getting a spot to help that official mirror to get nowhere to go, because the action may clean up where he can't see it. So just kind of stay back. Don't get hurried on kickoffs. You see a lot of guys that want to run up and get side by side, where you're almost better off staying back behind, letting the play develop, and just kind of seeing it from the backside like you would on a long run going down the field.
Right. And that kind of transitions to the fact that, common fouls that are there. And I think to the point of what Brandon was saying is that it is great if you can if the side judge or the field judge or umpire, the back judge gets into the field of play and they can get set still, they can help us from the short flanks when we're working goal line up on common fouls. The reverse takedown is a pretty good foul, and a lot of times they see that gunner coming down and they see him get pulled completely over, where a lot of times, as Matthew alluded to, we're going from a zone that Jeff has talked about to a zone coverage, and we see the guys going to the ground. We're not quite sure how they got there, and a lot of times that deep official can do that. But it doesn't matter. We're talking free kicks here. The real deal is this. We all will officiate better the less movement that we have to make. Move when it's necessary, obviously, and if it's not, then sit still until you feel that it's necessary for you to move. Common fouls, again, holdings, block below the waist. A lot of times we see block below the waist, or we don't really officiate it, but it can be Team A that's blocking below the waist. I know that by rule, as long as there's an effort to get to the ball carrier, but 99% of the time, those low blocks aren't to get to a ball carrier. They're to try to take somebody out so someone else can get to the ball carrier. But, your holdings, your blocks in the backs, your takedowns, or your reverse takedowns are a lot of the times the fouls that we're going to see there. I mean, outside of, what you would see from offside, that's up front type deal.
Moving on to crew communication after the play. Kick plays are where you're going to have the most common times you're going to have the multiple fouls, and don't be sure that a referee has your foul. So if you're a back judge or umpire and you've got kicking team offside, and you see a referee getting ready to enforce a penalty, don't assume it's yours. There could have been a holding or block in the back downfield, and he doesn't even know that you've got a foul upfield. So this is the time to get in your comm device and be sure that that the crew is clear. Remember, penalty enforcement's a responsibility of the entire crew, not just the referee. So make sure you communicate well. Also, at the end of a kick play, this is where if you're going to spot the wrong team's ball, this is when it's going to happen, right? I mean, it's really common that during the game, we'll find out we've got the wrong ball out there. It usually happens after the kickoff. So just be sure, umpire and line of scrimmage officials, you've got the right ball and we're on the same page.
Yeah, and I'll just emphasize, we've talked about this before in these meetings. If we have a touchback, make sure our short flanks or deep flanks, they give us what position on the field where they want it, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we can get the ball down and ready for play.
Yeah, sometimes, Jeremy, that might be best if we get that during the period of time before kickoff. If it's a touchback, coach, what position do you want it? So find that offensive coordinator, side judge, field judge, whomever that might be in that team area, and just say, hey, if we got a touchback, what position you want? So when we come in, we're already ready. We're not waiting on it.
Makes sense.
And to add to that, George, one common foul that comes up is kickoff out of bounds. And, to talk about positions on the field, we know that by rule, that ball has to go on that sideline, on that hash mark that the ball went out. So I see a lot of times we allow them to make a choice on a kickoff out of bounds, and that's not the right thing to do. Ball's got to be on that hash where the ball went out.
And also, just adding to that real quick, the blind side blocks and common fouls too, especially when there's a change of direction. So if there's a reverse, in the back, just watch out for whenever there's a change of direction. Be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, I think that, Jeff, you alluded to it, that sometimes, crazy things are going to happen on free kicks, change of possession, scrimmage kicks. So a lot of times referees and umpires, they got involved because they were watching 2 other players or 4 other players. They don't really even know the result of the play. At the end of the down, sometimes it's real important that when the referee and everything settles down, when we've had these change of possessions or we've had these free kicks, that we make sure we know and take a moment that we're clear on who's called who and who's called what and what the status of the ball was, where the foul occurred, when the foul occurred, so that it can be enforced properly as well. I think we kind of talked about handling the ball. So, on free kicks, that ball's going to come in from the deep flank. Because
Correct.
we work forward properly. So the deep flank would be the one that would be bringing those balls into the umpire at that time. Usually the referee's going to kick that ball out to the short flank. The short flank then takes it to the sideline.
Correct. I really don't have anything to add to that. I think that someone did make the comment, or the only comment that I would make is that if it's going to be a touchback, now this does say after a return. If I know it's going to be, if the ball is a touchback, I will have already asked the special teams coach or the head coach wherever the ball placement in the event that it was a touchback. But outside of that, what you said is spot on after a return.
And I guess in high school, I don't know if y'all work balls differently, so somebody help me. And I'm just asking the question. We have change of possessions that come in from the press box side, but in high school, if we don't have balls from both teams on either side of the field, then obviously it's got to come in from that side of the field, right? When from whoever is going to be on team or on offense, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I just make sure of that.
Okay, moving on to scrimmage kick plays and pre-snap positioning. I'll take our end of that. So, normally I'll be back with the umpire on the punts. The umpire is going to be be near with the linebackers on the field goals and extra points, obviously. Only thing I'll say is if we're inside the end zone, make sure you talk to your kicker if he's anywhere near the end line. Don't let him step on the end line on a routine catch before the kick. Obviously, if it's going to be a wayward snap, he may step on it and go out of bounds. He got a safety, but try to prevent that if you can. I think this is more relevant to the deeps and where they're going to position on the scrimmage kick.
It is. I think Fleming was trying to get on the call. I was going to allow him to speak to this, but I will go ahead and roll on. I know y'all love to hear my voice right now. Pre-snap positioning for us during the scrimmage kick. Let me be very clear. As a deep official, my favorite sound is a double thud. I love it when I hear the thump thump. I just get warm and fuzzy on the inside. But since we're actually talking actual positioning, anytime that the ball is being kicked inside of Team A's 50, I would have noticed during pregame exactly what type of a leg we have, what are the weather conditions. Those are the type of things that would definitely determine how deep to be. And also keep in mind that the returner will also kind of help with that as well, because those coaches would have looked to try to help with that. Now,
Brandon, he's on now.
Oh, very good. Hello, Fleming. I'll let you add to this. I am, as a deep flank, I feel it's very comfortable to be at least 3 to 5 yards behind the back judge. That's my opinion. It does vary depending on each official. The manual is going to tell you basically to kind of be even. But most importantly, get where you're comfortable. And the main reason why I get 3 to 5 yards behind the back judge, is because in the event that ball continues to go, I'm going to have to retreat. And my first steps will be back anyway. So I just want to make sure that I have a nice, easy cushion to be able to trail the play in the event after the returner has caught the ball. On field goals, that's actually pretty standard. The side judge will roll in with the umpire. I feel it's very important that the umpire dictate where he wants the side judge. As long as there is communication, whatever your crew decides, I think is going to be the most important. There are some side judges that come in from the side of the field that they're on, and they have that communication with their umpire. And then you also have the strength formation, and there's that thought and that mechanic. So as long as they're all being covered, that is the most important, that all the keys that are there are being covered between the umpire and the side judge is the most important. Back judge and field judge, they're under the uprights. So their positioning is it should be behind the crossbar, not directly under it, but behind it. Some get directly under it. I will also add mechanically, it is not imperative or nor is it required that you blow your whistle once the ball crosses the upright. Once the ball crosses the crossbar, your mechanic itself actually in going up serves the same purpose as a whistle. There's no need for a whistle there.
Hey, Brandon, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, usually I think if I'm not mistaken, in 7-man, the side judge will always go to the strong side. He's usually gonna be, I just say opposite the referee, but he usually goes to the strong side. He takes the guard out to his side. So I know you said that they usually just decide off where the umpire has them, but I think the manual says he goes to the strong side of the umpire.
Okay. Did you have anything else to add on pre-snap positioning for punts or field goals?
If I'm not mistaken, we are even on my crew, and we are usually probably anywhere between 5 to 10. And once the ball is kicked, I'm taking steps back until the ball is caught. I'm not backpedaling fast. I'm just walking backwards. So if the ball does hit the ground, he missed, I am not stationary and I can move and get back where I need to be. If we are kicking from the, say, age 45, then of course we're on the goal line. I'm just right behind the power line as far as the starting position.
All right, very good. George, shoot, you guys adding to the movement, the field position, all yours.
All right, I'll go. So punts, I'm going to stand on the line of scrimmage. And for punts, obviously, some of the most important things to find out, because we have number exceptions, I'm going to figure out who my numbering exceptions are on my side. Really see who my eligibles are. And then a lot of times, if I have enough time, I will make sure I see who's actually on the shield, so that I can know as many of my eligibles as possible, so I can contribute later on in case the play breaks down. One of the most important things as line of scrimmage officials on punts and on scrimmage kicks is, did the ball cross the line of scrimmage? And so I want to make sure that I'm on the line of scrimmage as that punt is going across. I want to make sure I can rule on it going across or not. So because a lot of the rules are different based off of going across or not. We do have a good punt. I go down the field based off of the kick. A lot of people will tell you they don't do this, but people do peek just a little bit to kind of see what direction that ball went and how far it went. Just a very quick glance and go down the field. No set number. I just really let the play take me down. If we've got, like Brandon said earlier, we've got a kicker who's really booting the ball, I'm going to go down a little further. If it's a bad kick or a shorter kick, I'm going to go down a little bit shorter than that. And I really try to stop as the ball is caught so that I can start to officiate the play as it's coming back my direction because I have a reverse mechanic back to the goal line. So, common fouls for us on kick plays. We have a lot of takedowns, which we would call a hold. You got a lot of block in the backs. The foul, the blindside block that we've had that's come into play the last year. That's very, very common for punts as well. No low blocks. We're looking for those. Those are the most common fouls that I see that I'm really talking to myself before the play, saying I don't want to see any of these. If I do see them, then I need to act accordingly.
Anybody else on line of scrimmage have anything to add there, or are we going to common fouls?
I think, let me just add just a little bit, that I think no differently than what Brandon was talking about. Once we decide the ball's crossing neutral zone, move down 7 or so yards, 8, 10 yards, maybe get a feel of how deep that punt's going to be. And as a line of scrimmage official, set and watch that play. Let it come to you. Then once you feel pressure, then you'll work your reverse mechanics. But the more you move, the more your eyes are going to bounce, and you're less likely to make the right decision on a foul that you thought was a foul because you were moving and they were moving. So just make sure that you move for a purpose, get downfield, set, watch it happen, and then work accordingly. That's all I'd add.
Wait a minute, George. When I said that, you said I was saying too much. Now you echoing me?
Well, no, you just kept on talking about how you're moving. Like left foot in front of the right foot. Okay, yeah, we're done. I think let's Matt or Jack. Do y'all have anything?
Nope, I think that's great.
No, just kind of watch the wave. You don't have the first wave as the line of scrimmage. You have the second wave. So you don't have the gunners. You just kind of have the people trailing behind that. And the referee and umpire should clean up after that. So.
Right. Good job.
All right, Fleming, I'll let you take common fouls during the scrimmage kicks.
Common fouls during the scrimmage kick. So from the deep position, usually we have holding is our biggest deal. Takedowns, we are aware of targeting fouls, blindside block fouls. Every once in a while, only if your gun, I guess, lines up close to the sideline, you would worry about him stepping out of bounds and the defender coming across. You having 4 feet out of bounds and the guy's blocking. If he comes off the line of scrimmage and goes towards the middle of the field, then you just take that off your plate. There's nothing to worry about. You want to look for a block in the back, especially near the return guy, because if he's pushed in the back and the guy goes into the punt receiver, and then that guy has to come and take the back judge off of a foul for KCI, which is another common foul for scrimmage kick plays. And so through it all, just, those are in your mind, you have that set that this is what I'm looking for. You could have strange things happen. You can have low blocks. They usually don't. But, that's just some things that can happen as the play goes on. You got your life in the hands of 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, who knows? In high school, 14, 15 for that matter. Brandon, did I miss any?
No, not on common fouls. I think those are the fouls that you will definitely have. The last thing was definitely making sure when reporting that foul, and I think Jeff, you may have mentioned that earlier. I definitely want to report that foul as after the ball was kicked, just to make sure that the referee can get it in the order of occurrence in the event, especially if there are two fouls or just when that foul took place.
Right. Yeah, and just knowing, of course, if B ends up with the ball, you have the opportunity for PSK. At the end of the day, B doesn't have the ball, then we probably have to go back to there's some other stuff that can come into play, but usually it's previous spot stuff. But anyway, on field goals and tries, of course, it's the same thing, holding. And pull and shoot as a whole. So if you have a pull and shoot, just go to them and announce it as a whole. And I'm not 100% sure if the high school is adopting the not covering the center this year yet or not, but that'd be one to consider as well if that's adopted.
I want to add one thing to scrimmage kicks and to movement and the mechanics part of it. As short flanks, we have to remember that on that return, we don't have the spot anymore. So, players going out of bounds, just like the deep officials do during regular plays, and they go out there out of bounds to go help you get players out of bounds. That's when we reverse and we make sure we go and get those players out of bounds as those deep officials have the spot.
Hey, Bruce, when do we get the UIL exceptions this year? Do you know? Talking about, nose guard over the center on kick plays. When do we expect to know more on that stuff? Maybe Bruce's mic isn't live. Sorry, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. Usually I know UIL does adopt all safety fouls, and not covering the center is included under something that was safety. So once you guys find out, then we can discuss how you would cover that. Brandon, I did get a question on the, are we doing questions now about alignments on punts?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. If they're not, we can answer them definitely now.
All right. It was asked, how deep do I line up, I guess, on the goal line? Usually I stand right behind the pylon. And that way I'm directly behind it. So if the ball goes over my head or my inside shoulder, if the inside the field is to my right, if it goes over my head, inside shoulder, then I know that I'm going to count it as a touchback. If it goes over my left shoulder, outside my head, over my left shoulder, then I know that it was kick out of bounds and we spotting it at the 1.5 yard line. So I'm usually right behind I don't stand over the pylon anymore. I almost got hit with a punt one day. Some of these punts are pretty good and they'll angle right at that pylon. So I got to kind of stand right behind it and close enough to determine whether or not the ball is going inside the end zone or outside the end zone. I hope that answers your question. I think it was Brother Ford, Tyron Ford, I believe it was.
Hey guys, sorry, it's Bruce. I was muted. I've been told that the UIL is going to accept that new NCAA rule that teammate player cannot be aligned over the frame of the teammate snapper. But we do expect the UIL exceptions anytime now. And when they are released, I'll certainly make sure I send a blast out via ref count so everybody has access to them.
Well, if that's the case, then I will believe mechanically the umpire, since he was with the ball, I would suggest that he lines up right over the center, and then as the guys line up, he just backs off and keeps guys on either side of him. I wouldn't touch him to line them up and put them in position or anything like that. But you can always use your body as a buffer. I put you guys on either side, don't cover the snapper, and then as the referee blows the whistle, just back off and then get into position.
Yeah, just adding on to what Fleming said, as an umpire, use your voice. So to me, it's a cheap value. That's something that you can talk the players out of. I mean, if he's in the frame of the body, you can give him a tap on the leg. The voice works probably better. So make sure you do that from the first quarter through the fourth quarter so you won't have any of those issues.
And tell me if I'm wrong, though. because I worked in a conference where we had this as a rule for a little while now. But I think this is something we also want to tell them pregame, especially for a new rule like this. It's going to be very unusual for teams not to line up over the center.
I believe that there won't be any issues once they understand it's no differently. We have very few calls probably where the center is roughed as it is today. So the fact that we just move him out, I think is no differently than what we see. I think it'll be cleaned up. You won't have any issues. It might be easier. Obviously, the umpire, I thought in 7-man in high school, did we not move the umpire on, is it field goals over to the offensive side of the ball?
No, I'm in front of
only on scrimmage kick punts.
On scrimmage kicks?
Scrimmage kicks, which are punts.
I know what a scrimmage kick is, but I
would subcategorize them only on punts, which are a subset of scrimmage kicks.
So to Anthony's point, I guess I knew that you're telling me that the umpires moved over there. Then if the umpire's over there, he's not going to be in that position, if you will. He would maybe during the pre-snap before he moved to release the ball or release from holding the ball up to tell everybody to get back off of him. But he's not in that normal position if you're telling me that he's on the offensive side of the ball. That's the only thing I guess I was trying to make.
I think they said
umpire's not in.
Yeah, I think they're saying that he's on that side of the ball on punts only, not field goals. So they're like clearing that area behind the umpire on punts, so the guys can just run down. But if I heard him right, on field goals, they are on the defensive side of the ball, so they would still be able to do that mechanic and get out the way and keep that area clean.
Well, hey, Bruce, why don't we move on to the last slide real quick? I think we handled crew communication, ball handling, on the free kick slide. Why don't we just move on to scrimmage plays?
Pre-snap communication for us for deep. A lot of our pre-snap communication is going to be dealing with number of players we have on the field for the defense, and also any type of substitution by the offense. So when we see those, that's going to be a lot of our pre-snap communication. Making sure at any point in time, if that ball carrier, if the previous play, if the ball ends in the side zone of that offensive team, we're automatically going to iron cross and have an automatic substitution signal. Just so there's no unfair tactics, and we are able to allow the defense to substitute. The communication that we'll have between our short flank, really is just, and it doesn't have to be done every time, but I think I may have mentioned it in a couple of weeks ago, is just making sure we got our down distance right. Just making sure we have a second down. I might just say, Jack, second down, Jack, I got second down. He might just respond with a 2. And that's all I need. He may not repeat it back to me, but as long as I know that he heard me and he gave me that communication, I have that. The iron cross is obviously used for substitution, and the typical 11-man on defense is either a thumbs up or a fist with your hand out, just to concur that you actually have 11 on the field for defense. In the event that you need to recount, maybe you have 12. Some do the hand swirl in the air. We're kind of, saying, hey, we need a recount. Some put a hand across the chest. There are different kind of communications that people use to say if they have 11 or 12. But just making sure that you have communicated that with your fellow deep officials. And most importantly, and you've heard it before, if you didn't get a count, don't give a signal. I don't have, Fleming, do you have anything to add on pre-snap communication?
No, that's pretty much it. Not on the communication side, just routines, but I don't think routines covered in within that.
Short flanks, anything there?
I just figured you'd cover it for us.
Wow.
So as a short flank, you want to be communicating with. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, shoot.
No, go ahead, Matt. I was just gonna. The only thing I would just say is that just keep in mind, and I see this from time to time, that when we go into substitution mechanics, it's only if Team A is on your sideline that we're going to give the cross signal for the substitution mechanic. A lot of times I see when I watch crews, I'll see the defense substitute, and they'll just come out with the cross sign like, it's confusing everybody. So it's only when Team A is substituting and when Team A is on your sideline that we should be giving that iron cross signal. As far as the other pre-snap communications, yeah, I agree totally. You need not only communications, you need your pre-snap routine, which the communication is part of that pre-snap routine. That's
George, should I mirror? This is a rhetorical question, but should I mirror the iron cross if I'm the opposite flank on the other side of the field?
I don't think it's necessary.
The only time you will mirror that signal if you notice A substitutes and then A brings their subs in, the opposite side gets an iron cross. If your sideline defense matches up, then I would get an iron cross, because at this point across the field, you're letting the referee know that, hey, we got somebody coming in. We got somebody coming in. Other than that, no.
I think that could be communicated, right? I mean, I guess the only purpose that we're just trying to say is that let's not confuse the masses by being the ops or the flank officials or the deep wing officials given an iron cross when Team B is substituting and Team A hasn't. So if Team A hasn't substituted or Team A is not on your sideline, that's one of the pre-snap communications and routines that you would not have to fulfill. You would not be obligated fulfilling that. But if you could come in, as Anthony said, and said, hey, wait a second, Team B was trying to match up because Team A had gone into substitution. Usually the referee, Jeff, and you might want to allude to this, once you see that taking place, you're usually counting to 3 or whatever it would be to give Team B that opportunity unless they're straggling. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about right.
The one thing I do want to say about pre-snap communication, I'm just going to change the subject a little bit. If you don't have the same down as everybody else, and you're kind of questioning it, shut the play down and get together and talk about it, because that is a pretty deep deal that everybody should be on the same page, and you just want to make sure everybody's on the same page before you go to the next snap. So if the downs don't feel right or people are showing up different numbers, get together and talk about it, make sure you're all on the same page.
Yeah, and on that point, pre-snap communication for the line of scrimmage guys is not just the communication you're doing. Make sure your chain crew is communicating to you on every play. Make sure your down box tells you verbally the down every play. We cannot lose a down. That just cannot happen. So make sure your down box is every play giving you the down so you know he's engaged, and like Matt said, so that everyone on the field knows what down it is and we're all on the same page.
Right. To that point, I will say this, Jack, and this is to quote somebody from the DFOA. There's an award that's given out by Steve under the name of Steve Story, and he used to always say there's two things as football officials we can't do. We can't lose a down, and we can't let them fight. If we take care of those two things, we'll have a pretty good football game.
Okay. Shoop, you want to talk about the non-overlapping between the line of scrimmage and deep wings?
Yeah. I think we talked a little bit about this at lunchtime when we were going over this, and I think that it's real important. And I think Xavier is going to put another training video together, and it would be really good. And I think that we've talked about this with the deeps. I know Flam and Brandon, your group, is that sometimes we get into situations where we have overlapping receivers or we have trips and we have switches, and I think that it'd be real important that we knew when we were going to switch and when it's appropriate to switch, and when we do switch, who's going to have who. And that transition between the deep official
and the line of scrimmage officials sometimes happens a lot during a football game. And my suggestion would be that if I had the number 2 receiver who then became the side judge's receiver and his guy stayed up at the line of scrimmage, that somewhere along in the way that I would have that communication in between the down, like, hey, did we switch? And a lot of times it's with the back judge. But I think it would be real important for us as a chapter, and we'll put some video together, and we just talk through it when we talk about trip receivers and quad receivers, dual receivers, and when it's appropriate for us to be doing switching. Anthony, you want to add to that?
Yeah, let me make sure I can be heard. Yes. So switching, and it changes a little bit. The closer you get into the red zone, even if your guy go inside, you want to stay with him a little bit longer. And you almost have to, at some point, I'll be able to officiate those 4 guys in close proximity. You probably should anyway, so you know who fouled who. But yeah, you should be aware of once the guy goes inside, at what point do you switch? And that's something you talk through the pregame. You could talk through the week. You don't have to wait till Friday before the game to sit down and go through this stuff. A lot of this stuff you need to have in place. And so I call my sideline partner all the time. During the season, I call him at least once a week and we talk. And so, establish what that is, but also once you get inside into the red zone, even if your guy goes inside, you want to stay with him a tad bit longer before you just automatically switch. That makes sense.
Hey, Shoot, this is Xavier. Just to add on what you mentioned earlier about the whole other session. So I think last year and the past couple of years as a chapter, we've really, one of our weakest points have been what you just talked about, the communication between the deeps and the shorts, and, when they're supposed to switch and who's got who, because I think a lot of times we got in trouble when we did get in trouble is because either somebody was not being watched or the deep and the short are watching the same guy. So we're definitely going to put something together, maybe next week, not exactly sure, hopefully next week, between the deeps and the shorts, and just to emphasize that communication and the importance of, the keys in those specific situations. So thanks for bringing that up.
Okay. All right, we can move to the, positioning outside the 7. Josiah, if you or Jack or Matt want to take that from a flank standpoint, just, highlights of it, and we'll move forward.
Go ahead, Jack.
All right, so positioning outside the 7, obviously, like they said, the closer you get to the goal line, the more communication you're going to be doing with your deep official. And my deep official always tells me, hey, I'm on the goal line. I got the goal line spot to the 2. He's verbalizing that before all the plays, so I know he's there. I know I don't need to go barreling into the goal line, and I can trail the play, stay behind the play, and officiate it, and know that he's going to be there on the goal line. Inside the 7, I believe they say it's the head linesman who's technically in charge of, saying, hey, I got the goal line, pushing everybody back, making sure we're on the same page. Just make sure that it's getting done. Use your 020 if you have to. If you see your crossfield deep standing on the goal line and your guys on the end line, just make sure that gets communicated, across the field somehow. And then as far as, I don't want to get into the mechanics of movement and all that, but as far as communication goes, yeah, just be more verbal when you get in there close to the goal line with your deep officials, and just make sure that we're on the same page. So we're not A, running into each other, and B, that we've got the goal line always covered. You guys want to add anything to that? Or do you want to go any more in depth on the goal line?
No, just make sure you're communicating with your deep, whether they should be in the goal line or if they're deep. That's the key part, and make sure you're communicating with your deep wings.
The only thing that I'll add with that, though, is that if you're the H or the L and you have expressed that you're in goal line mechanics and you look down there, or that you're not in goal line mechanics, and the side judge thought that you were at the 7 and you were at the 8, and they somehow moved off that goal line, guess who's going to get to cover it?
right? So
Exactly.
always be aware. Just the fact that, we're in goal line mechanics, make sure they moved off the pylon. If they didn't, it's no big deal. Just don't run over them when you get to the goal line. Vice versa. If they're not there when we snapped at the 8 or the 8.5, then we have to cover it, right? So just be aware.
Well, I will say this to the deep wings. If you're not 100% sure if they're at the 7 or the 8 or in between, ask. Are we snapping at the 7? And if he acknowledges yes, then you know that you're going to move back to the back pylon. If he's at the 7.5 and say no, you stay put. Communicate.
Key point.
Okay, guys, want to talk about how you like to work passes near the sidelines and coffin corner, feet, hands, and I'd like to communicate that with each other.
Well, if you don't,
are we starting?
Go
deep?
ahead. You got it.
No, I just asked. We starting deep. You the man. I'm taking notes,
okay.
Brandon.
I know that the short flanks talked about it a couple weeks ago, and we echoed it. First and foremost, if you don't have feet, nothing else matters. So let's first talk about looking at feet. So, but making sure now this is hard when you're officiating in the game, and let me be very clear in saying this. If the if the player is looking at you, meaning if you are the short flank and you are looking at him and he is looking at you, chances are you're probably going to have the best view of possession. So I would hope that the deep wing could definitely help with feet first. But feet's always going to be first, regardless if it's short, deep, and wherever the receiver's looking. So let's first start there. If you are working that sideline, the end zone, most important thing is, and you'll hear it a million times, go slow, go slow, go slow. And if you think you're going slow, go slower. And follow that receiver all the way to the ground, all the way through his whole possession of the opportunity of making the sideline grab. And most importantly, make sure that you, I used choice words a couple weeks ago, and I say you make love to your partner, with the eyes. I want to say something else, but it may be young ears on it. So y'all get what I'm trying to say. You want to make sure that you and your sideline official, y'all lock eyes after you have officiated the play. You get together before, and now let's see what we have. Don't be quick to rule on that. If I'm coming up and Jack is coming up, we can come to a roundabout spot. The crossfield official is going to have a soft spot anyway, so we can work crossfield mechanic and get that later. But what we need to do is discuss, hey, Jack, I had feet. And Jack immediately, okay, well, I had hands, I saw possession. Well, did he complete it and go to the ground? These are one of the key times of that communication before actually ruling is going to be huge. It's going to be key there. Going slow and getting it right is better than going fast and getting it wrong, especially in our game now. TASO, UIL games, we don't have the ability of replay right now. So we're going to have to go slow and communicate that with each other and be confident in the call that we make. If you don't have it, if you don't have enough information, say that. That is the easiest thing to kind of help that situation. And either the two of you piece it together or you just wipe it off and you don't have anything. Or, I mean, those are really going to be the two, because if you say you have a catch, then that means you had enough there. So if those are the situations, but working the sideline in the end zone, it's more about going slow and communicating with your partner, not being quick to rule, quick to pass judgment. And now, if you are 110% on it, then you're gonna come down and you're gonna get your spot. You don't have to do the whole signal, with the catch, the old school, showing its catch. Some like that. Some people like to do that to sell it. That's fine, but I'm going to automatically know that if you're going to that spot and you're giving me a spot, then you have an actual catch. So that would be some of the communication that's there. I'll open it up for Flim or Shoop to add a little bit to that, but those definitely some of the keys that I would have.
So, I would say on your initial alignment, I line up on the media line. So you have the white line that comes through. I line up on the media line. So if the play is coming towards me while I'm on the goal line, I don't have to move. I'm deep enough. Also, I make the chains move back to the media line when we get inside the 15. I mean, it's no use of me lining up deep. I have a box man standing in front of me, blocking my view. So that will be my starting position, and I will stay there. And like Brandon says, go slow. I take the entire catch. They're playing football, so which means if you don't have your feet in, it don't matter what you do with the ball. Football is first. The foot is first. So I start with the feet. If I got that in, I come up to the ball. If he secured the ball, or even if he's turning towards me, usually his body language, or if you don't see the ball, just keep staring at it until he either gets up with the ball or your partner tells you that it hit the ground if he's turned away from you. But usually you would know.
So a couple of things that I'll add to Fleming's comments. One of them is that when we do snap inside the 15 and the line to gain is going to be down there in the deep officials' way when they're standing at the goal line, I have that the line to gain, if you will, to move at a 45-degree angle back to that media line, so that that individual is well out of the way if we have a throw right to that near point in the side zone, and it also allows for that deep side judge to assist with any type of catch that might be coming down there. I know we talked about going slow, but the signal that helps us to go slow and to process when we're processing whether it's catch, no catch, is the killing of the clock above our head, right? We either have a catch that's going out of bounds or we have an incomplete pass. And so if we kill the clock, we don't necessarily have to give the incomplete signal until we've decided, once we have a moment to communicate with our partner, as to whether or not it's a catch or no catch. So learn to work that signal that goes above your head that kills the clock. Go to the spot of where you think the catch is completed. The deep flank should be working that way, bringing an opinion, let's hope. And when you get there, whoever decides to rule on catch, you can give the catch signal, or whoever rules to rule that it's incomplete can step out and give the incomplete signal. But it gives great credibility that both of you come together at that spot and communicate and come to a decision. We might both be wrong, but we're both going to go strong with it. So if anybody has any questions about what we're talking about as far as moving the chains back, the point of where we're starting is going to stay 6 feet off the wide or at the back of the white. But it's the line to gain chain that would be angled back at a 45 or so far back that he would be back by the media line if you have enough space there to get them back so that the field judge or side judge can see what's coming at them.
And to that point, that's good. So to that point, if the line to gain is inside the 2-yard line, you need to discuss that with your partner that you're going to take the first down or the touchdown. Now, you don't want to stand on top of each other. If the line to gain is at the 1.5, I always tell my guy, my goal line, my first down. So he'll know that I would get that spot if it's inside the 2-yard line or inside the 1-yard line. So we're not running over each other.
Anthony, yes. That's a very good point. That's exactly what I would communicate, and I would think that we'd want to, as a chapter, communicate that if the 2-yard line is the line to gain and we have the goal and we're snapping outside the 7, that we as the line of scrimmage officials would take the line to gain, leaving the deep official on the goal line so that double action could be there, could be ruled on a whole lot easier. And when I use double action, we can talk about that at another time if we need to, but where we have a knee down and then the second action causes the ball to break the plane. If they're trying to work line to gain at the 2 and coming back to it, I think we're better off just as a line of scrimmage official working the 2-yard line, allowing the deep to stay, and the deep's going to have the 1 and the deep's going to have the goal line.
Yep.
I think when we go to when we talk about moving forward, unless somebody on the line of scrimmage or another deep guy, does anybody have anything working short or deep passes near the sideline?
Again, Brandon kind of covered. If you got any pass near the sideline, you want to start with the feet, follow the guy out of bounds. Usually what gets tough, if that guy disappears into the bench on a catch on the sideline, then the back judge or somebody needs to step up. If you see the ball hit the ground, back judge needs to step up and come in and wave it off. Or umpire, if you've turned and you saw it, and he's going deep into the side zone and the ball come loose, the wing guys, because players will be there, probably won't know if the ball come loose. So if you're 100% sure, say something. But other than that, you working feet the ball.
Yeah, I agree with all that. That's nothing else to add.
The only thing I gotta add is make sure as a line of scrimmage guy that you are in position to rule. So if you're starting on the back of the white and that's played towards the sideline, you can't really rotate to see the white on the top. So you might depends where you start your initial positioning. So I toe the white and I can rotate to see down the sideline. But just make sure wherever you start that you are in position to rule on the sideline for the feet, not necessarily be on the back of the white as a line of scrimmage because you may get blocked out by players as well.
Matt, I didn't even really take. I think you've got a very good point. I don't think as a line of scrimmage official on a scrimmage play that you should start at the back of the white. You should probably just have your feet or toes, if you will, or a few inches off of the white. You don't need to be moving unless that's a reason to move, right? And so if you're at the back of the white and the play's thrown, a short play or pass play thrown to your side zone, and you're used to being at the back of the white, you're going to have a very difficult challenge in trying to see feet and ball if you're the only guy that's going to rule on that near the side zone. So I don't know if we've changed it or not, but I would suggest that as a flank official, we don't work the back of the white. We just work off the football field. Does that make sense?
I'm with you. I'm the same as you.
It does, and the deep guys are a little bit different than the flank guys. I'm talking about the line of scrimmage guy. The deep guy may have the opportunity to move up to the side zone or to the sideline to work on it before the ball gets there.
Yeah, and yeah, that's right. We will be on the goal line. We will be, like I said, at the media line, deeper than normal. Because what happens if that guy comes right at you? You're going into self-preservation mode, which means you're gonna be trying to move out the way instead of officiating.
Right.
So
yeah. But Slim, tell me about though. What if the ball is being caught at the 50-yard line? I mean, at the 50-yard line, I'm sure you're still probably near the white or the back of the white. So I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that we're not always talking about goal line here when we talk about short passes. That's not what we're talking about. I'm just saying so that we communicate down the sideline, right?
Right. I start at the back of the white, and that way to keep the coaches back. I start at the back of the white, keep the coaches back.
Yeah, so do I.
Right. Okay. But then you move, if you need to, you move up to the sideline to make a ruling while the play's being
correct,
right?
Right. If you see the ball is coming towards that sideline, and that the sideline is going to be in play, then in your backpedal motion, you can always backpedal angle to where you straight down the sideline and then stop to make a ruling. You don't want to make a ruling on the sideline moving. And so I think the ball will stay in the air long enough for you to kind of slide over. It's not, there's probably 2 steps to move over. And then you stop and you look straight down the line to make sure that you got feet and you got ball.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page with the deep guys, that when we're trying to rule on a sideline pass, that we don't really want the deep guy staying behind the white or 6 feet off the sideline.
Yeah,
we need him up on the sideline so he can help us roll feet ball, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's just our initial position. But yes, George, you are correct. That's our initial position. But we'll be fluid in our motion just as you guys are coming down to make sure we have that boxed in.
That's why they
Right.
call us
Perfect.
athletes.
I tried to tell him it earlier, but he said I was talking.
I know what they call you.
That's why we athletes. We can chew gum and back up at the same time.
Hey, so there was a question about
Greg Myers got some.
there's a question about how two officials, they come down towards the sideline. So as a line of scrimmage and say your deep wing has the goal line, if it's beyond 7 yards and it's coming down hard, most line of scrimmage guys are probably gonna start pulling up around the 5 yard line so we're not on top of each other. When we're outside the 7 to the 15, it's still kind of the same thing. When you get inside the 7, the line of scrimmage has all the way down. So the one time you might have guys getting close to each other is when, say, like Shoop was talking about earlier, when the ball snaps to the 15 and deep wings are starting the goal line. That may be the only time where the deep wings and the line of scrimmage may get somewhat close together. But for the most part, there should be enough separation between the two that you shouldn't be standing on top of each other anywhere along throughout the game.
Right. So how do we want to move forward, Jeff? I know we're approaching 8. It's the communication with DPI, OPI. Do we want to go to reporting fouls or?
Well, reporting fouls, we'll get that in penalty enforcement. How about measurements? You guys probably have some good stuff to say on measurements. Why don't you take that a little bit there, George?
Yeah. Okay. Matt, you want to do measurements, or Josiah? Josiah, we hadn't heard from you in a while. You do measurements?
Yeah, so measurements, one thing that's important, I think now that if you guys are switching both sides, is that you have different responsibilities from one half. From one half to the other. And unless TASO has done that differently than CCA. But as a line of scrimmage official, if you are on the chain side, you are responsible for those chains. You're responsible for bringing the chains out and making sure that they get placed in the right spot. The line of scrimmage official on the opposite side has the 5 yard mark, and you're responsible that the clip gets to the right spot on the field so that we can stretch. Depending upon, I guess, what you guys do, I know we do for TV purposes, for press box purposes, we always make sure that the chain is on the side of the press box so that the TV can see that the TV cameras can see whether we have a first down or not. Not very much else on that for as far as line of scrimmage officials, but very important to make sure you guys know that you guys have a different responsibility from one half to the next this year if you're going to be switching sides.
And that's the same for the deep officials. So if you are the field judge or you on the home side away from the chains, first of all, you have to recognize what down it is. If we're measuring on first, second, or third, then you would get, and we're outside the numbers, you would get a ball from the ball boy, and you would go stand at the inbound spot. And if we don't know the inbound spot, that would be the hash where we're going to place the next ball down. What I try to do is alleviate my referee having to hold a chain and carry a ball in to put it down. So I take the ball to the hashes where he's going to put it down. He put it down, you give him the ball, he marks it. On the opposite side, for the if you're on the chain side, then you would go to the front stake, have him move to the spot that they spotted, and then you'll walk in and just clear the area so everybody's back. You help get guys out of the camera view. Brandon, is there anything else on measurements that we do?
Not a thing, my friend.
So let me talk about back judges as well and how they can help prevent on that as well.
I forgot about them guys. They are responsible for the ball that is on the ground. So all they're doing is just basically holding it in place. But make sure that you line up on the side opposite the press box so you don't cover up the ball.
And you're also verifying with the referee whether it's long or short, correct?
Yes, that is very correct. You can help the referee out by immediately, if he doesn't have the ability to see it, you can help him out by telling him that it's short, and leave it at that.
And as far as the umpire goes, once you get the stick, try to keep it as vertical as possible. Don't do anything funny with it, because coaches tend to, yell out crazy insanity. Once the referee declares whether it's short or we have a first down, make sure you get that stick to the guy on the chain so they can, quickly take it off the field, especially if it's short, because you don't want that to be a long-lasting picture, because that's when they, they kind of tend to say some unruly things.
The
so
only
just
thing,
make that quick.
yeah, Jeremy, just to add to what you're saying, if we're inside the inbounds, or that Anthony's Fleming, if we're inside the hash mark, the inbound line, then yeah, if we're in the middle of the field and we're short, then yes, we can say, hey, we're short, we're going to hustle back off the field, right? But if we're outside that and we're bringing it back in, let's make sure that we don't give that stake back to the chain crew, that we're working it till we have to move it back inside the inbound line and reset the ball. Secondly, though, once you're down, and the opposite official that Josiah was talking about, whether you have the clip or you're given the back of the line, if you see the referee point first down, make sure the guy that's the official, the L or the H, knows that, hey, the referee said first down. If we know that we're short, then make sure we communicate that so that the chain crew doesn't take off running on the guy that's got the clip in his hand and we jerk it off of him, right? Or we jerk it off the chain. Just communicate that measurement side. It only happens a few times a ball game, but when it does, it really looks good if we get it right.
Yeah, and some other things I left out. Like you said, if you're short, you've got to take that chain back over. If you're on the side of the chain, you got to take that chain back to the side of the field that it's on, and place it in its proper spot. Because we're short, and we want to make sure that the chains get back to, if not exactly where they were before we measured. So that's part of what Clem was talking about with the front stake, with the stake going to the front, because that is a reference point for the chains to come back to, as well as your clip on the 5-yard mark. And another thing that I ask for when I'm talking to my chain crew, when I'm actually going to get the clip and find out what clip we want, I ask them, because we use 2 clips. I ask them which one is the correct one, so I don't go out there with the wrong clip on the wrong yard line, in case the clip may be on 2 different 5-yard marks. So something I do, but hopefully you guys don't have to measure a whole lot.
And just to clarify what Josiah's saying, I know what he's meaning. He said that the stake, he means he moves the down box to the line to gain stake, so that when we come back, if all else has failed, we know that we can put the line to gain stake down where the down box was and stretch it back for the 10 yards. And then we would put the down box at wherever the ball would be.
That's the deep wing post. That's what you do. If you're on the chain side, you go get that front stake and make sure it moves to the front end where, so we know where to put it.
The down box. Y'all keep saying the front stakes.
Well, I mean, the down
box.
I'm sorry, the down box. Yes, you get the down box and move it to where the front stake was.
Where the line to gain is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we can move on then. I think we can get a measurement, Jeff. What's next?
Well, just end it with use of the hats? How you guys like to use your hat in the sidelines? We'll end it there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'll just start with beanbags. Beanbags is one of the things that we've used in football for a number of years. And the beanbag, everybody thinks, is what means that if the beanbag hits the ground, that we've got a fumble on the field of play. Well, the reality of it is that true to some extent, but the beanbag is to indicate the end of the related run. remember, we drop bean bags, we throw flags. So we don't have to throw our bean bag at the spot where the ball carrier drops it. We want our bean bag to land at the yard line in which the runner has lost control of the football. So our bean bags are used to indicate the end of a related run in case we need that for penalty enforcement. Anthony, I'll let you talk, or y'all talk about the hat use.
Yeah, so we usually throw a hat on downs where, on pass plays especially, where we have a teammate player that goes out of bounds on his own or is forced out. And that just indicates that you have a player out of bounds. It doesn't indicate a foul, because if a guy goes out of bounds and stays out of bounds, you would still have a hat, but you wouldn't have a flag if he comes back in on kick, if he's the first to come back in. If he comes back in after going out on his own, or if he's the first to touch the pass when he went out on his own, then you would have a flag. But I think that's the only time I really used the hat. Brandon?
I swat flies away from hot games when flies are coming by, but really, no, seriously, that's it. There's nothing else to use our hat for. There are times, and mechanically, I won't even say this is correct, but if you, or actually Bruce he just hit it. TASO does not require for you to have a hat down to the receiver goes out in the zone unless they don't return immediately. So if it's a step out and they come right back in the play, then TASO does not require a hat down. And there have and then there have been instances.
Hold on a second, Brandon. Hold on a second. If we step out on our own and we come immediately back in, we're first to touch, would we not have a foul?
You should have a hat and a flag.
Right. So maybe
I'm sorry.
we need to maybe clarify
when
that.
Forced out, I apologize. Yes, when forced out. You are correct. I apologize. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Yep. We're good.
And lastly, there have been, I don't know if this is mechanically or just an old school method, or in the event that you have multiple fouls and you don't have an additional flag, I've seen hats be used as an indicator there. Be used as a foul, not necessarily
absolutely
always a method that you want to use. We don't want anybody carrying two flags, because if you're seeing that much, something's probably wrong. But at the same time, that's the time that you could actually see use your hat would be at a time that you need that.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, from a deep position, you might talk about the beanbag mechanics on punts, right? We have that situation.
Yeah, so for the usually the back judge is the guy that's going to beanbag the end of the kick. Let me say the end of beanbag the end of the kick. Back judge is the only deep official I know that maybe have two beanbags. You can have end of the kick, and during that play you can have a fumble. But I've seen a lot of back judges that stand back there and toss the beanbag from 5 yards. If he catches the ball and he starts to return, as you moving upfield, just drop the beanbag at that spot as you pass it. If that makes sense. Deep wings on punts is very rare that we get into dropping beanbags, but we can if it's close to the side zone. But usually I was gonna mark fumbles, or maybe if we have a momentum catch inside the 5 yard line and we want to mark the spot and he's returning it, we would drop a beanbag in that instant just to indicate the change of possession spot.
Are we there, guys? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, this is Xavier. Hey, I know we went a little long today, but if you get guys talking about what they'd like to talk about, they can go all night. So I appreciate everybody who stayed on, to finish the session. I know that it's recorded anyway. We're still gonna have it up on the replay, but I appreciate anybody who stayed on. I want to thank everybody who was part of the presenting, and also who was part of the discussion on the chat. We had a lot of questions on the chat that luckily we got answered while you guys were just talking. You know, I think a couple of times we chimed in and said, hey, they said this and that, but for most of them, we got them answered inside the chat itself. Once again, guys, thanks a lot. Again, next week, like Shoop said, we're going to try to do a session with the deeps and the shorts. We probably have the referees and umpires there also, just to talk about communication and mechanics between the shorts, deeps, and maybe even the referees and umpires together. So, guys, thanks a lot again, and thanks for everybody who joined in. And we'll see everybody hopefully next week at the same time. All right? Thanks a lot, guys.